Today we're going to that deep, dark place that nobody really wants to go. It's worse than a nightmare. It's the 1-star negative reviews. That moment that you open your phone, see a notification, and your stomach just drops before you even read a single word. We've all been there, or we will be. It's just the truth. And before we go any further, a negative review does not mean that you've failed. It does not mean that your work isn't good enough, and it doesn't mean you should close your business and emigrate in shame. It simply means that you work with people. And people, bless them, are complicated creatures, especially when hundreds of pounds are involved. So just before we get into it, we've built the Complete Complaint Survival Guide, designed for the exact scenarios that you're most likely to face, with clear do's and don'ts and practical scripts to guide you through your responses. That includes how to handle difficult messages and exactly how to respond to a 1-star review in a way that's going to protect your reputation. Feel free to use these scripts as they are or adapt them so they sound like you. The goal is simple: to help you feel more confident, more in control, and fully equipped when these situations come up. So the goal here isn't to just figure out how to never get a bad review. That ship has sailed for most of us. And honestly, chasing the perfect 5-star record across your entire career is just setting yourself up for unnecessary anxiety. The goal here is to handle them properly, because I promise you that the way that you respond to a negative review will do more for your reputation than 100 5-star glowing reviews ever could. So let's start with prevention, because the best complaint is the one that never ever occurs. And here's something worth knowing. Most negative reviews don't just appear out of nowhere. They build, and there's usually signs. And in this industry, the vast majority of complaints fall into 3 clear categories. Once you understand these, you can get ahead of most issues before they ever reach review stage. Category 1, fitting concerns. This is where your client feels discomfort, something doesn't feel right, or they're convinced that something's gone wrong with the fitting. Now, whether that's a genuine issue or a perceived issue, honestly doesn't matter at this point. What matters is how fast you respond. And the answer is always the same: get them back in. Don't try and diagnose a fitting issue over Instagram. This is a one-way road to a very long, very stressful message thread that ends badly for everyone. Get them back in, check it properly, and assess it with your own eyes and hands. It immediately reassures the client that you're taking it seriously, and it puts you back in control of the situation where you belong as the expert. Category 2. Finish and styling complaints. This one. So it's the classic: the hair feels frizzy, it doesn't sit right, it doesn't look like it did when I left the salon. And 9 times out of 10, genuinely, this isn't a hair quality issue, it's a styling expectation issue. Here's what happens. Client leaves your salon looking absolutely incredible. You've styled it to magazine-worthy status, sectioned it beautifully, the whole thing is immaculate and she loves it. She goes home, washes it, rough dries it upside down, skips the sectioning entirely, uses whatever shampoo was in the shower, and then she's confused about why it looks different. This is not her being difficult, this is a gap in understanding, and that gap is your responsibility to close. So there are 2 ways to approach this. 1, educate properly. Show her how to blow dry the extensions and walk through the sectioning. Be honest about what creating a salon finish at home actually involves. 2, offer ongoing blow drying and styling appointments as a service. Regular blow dries, weekly or fortnightly, positioned not as damage control, but as a standard part of having beautiful hair extensions. Because some clients, and this is fine, simply don't want to do the upkeep. They want the result and they're happy to come back for that, but it needs to be part of the conversation from the very start, not something you're scrambling to suggest after the complaint comes in. Category 3, aftercare and lifestyle damage. This is where things get a little bit more delicate. Products that weren't right, excessive heat, sun cream, chlorine, the list goes on. The client who says she followed the aftercare but also spent 2 weeks in Ibiza and swam in the sea every day. Here's where the responsibility becomes shared. Your responsibility covers a safe, balanced fitting, the correct method for that client, and thorough aftercare guidance. What happens after they walk out the door is on them. But, and this is important, if that aftercare guidance was rushed, vague, or just assumed, then when something goes wrong, she won't see it as her responsibility. She'll see it as a product issue, or worse, a fitting issue. So you have to be clear before the fitting, during the fitting, and after the fitting. What products are needed, what to avoid, what will happen if those things are not followed. Even if she's been wearing hair extensions for 10 years, you still cover it properly every single time, because consistency is what protects you, and this is where systems quietly save you. Automated follow-up and aftercare messages, signed consultation forms, written guidance she can refer back to. Now, this is not because you don't trust your clients, but because when something comes up 3 months later, you want to refer back to facts, not memory. That shifts the conversation from emotional to factual, and that's a much easier place to work from. Now let's talk about when complaints have actually happened, because prevention is great, but we're realists here. Here's the thing that most people don't realise. The majority of negative reviews aren't written because something went wrong. They're written because of how something was handled afterwards. The work might have been absolutely fine. The complaint might have been completely unfounded. But if the response made the client feel dismissed or patronised, that's what sends them off to Google. So when someone messages you unhappy, your tone in those first few sentences matters more than anything else. The instinct is to defend yourself, to explain why it isn't your fault, and to list every piece of evidence. Even when you're right, it doesn't land well. At that point, the client just wants to feel heard. So your first message should always do 3 things. Acknowledge the concern, reassure them that you're taking it seriously, and take control of the next step. You are de-escalating. That's your only job in the moment. And then you investigate. You ask questions, you bring them in if needed, and when you explain what's happened, you inform. You don't tell them off. Now the dreaded bit, the threats. If this isn't sorted, I'm leaving a review. This can make your blood pressure spike, but remember this, in most cases, it's not about the review, it's leverage. Your job is to stay calm, acknowledge the frustration, reaffirm your position, and hold your standards. If something qualifies for a resolution, then you offer it. But if it doesn't, you don't fold under pressure. Because the moment you do, you've set a precedent. And sometimes, despite doing everything correctly, the review still gets left. That's just a reality. So let's talk about responding when negative reviews land. The instinct is to respond quickly. But step back, give yourself time, and remember this, you are not writing to that client. You are writing to every future client who reads that review. And they will read it, because when people are about to spend money, they go straight to the 1-star reviews. You do it, everyone does it. But they're not just reading the complaint, they're reading between the lines. Does this sound reasonable? Does this sound like a one-off? Did the client follow the instructions? And more importantly, they are reading your response. This is what's going to build trust. A calm, measured response shows confidence. A defensive one is going to create doubt. And here's something interesting. Having 0 negative reviews can actually work against you because it just doesn't feel real. A business with only perfect 5-star reviews can look like it's been manufactured. But a business with a small number of well-handled negative reviews looks credible. So the goal was never perfection, the goal is professionalism. And professionalism shows up in your expectations, your communication, your systems, and your responses. When those things are solid, a negative review does not damage your reputation. It just reinforces it. I hope this has given you some more grounded perspective on the more stressful parts of running a client-facing business, because the reality is not every client will be the right fit. Not every experience will go smoothly. And even when your processes are excellent, your communication's thorough, and your work is genuinely amazing, you will occasionally come across someone whose expectations simply don't align with yours. And that's not a failure, it's just working with the public. So when that 1-star moment comes, and it may, just take a breath. It's not the end of your business. It's not a verdict on your ability. And it's not something that should be keeping you awake at 2 a.m. Give yourself a moment and then respond as the professional that you are. Calm, clear, and considered. Not for them, for every future client reading over their shoulder. Handled properly, these moments don't set you back. They show your experience, your composure, and they show potential clients exactly the kind of person that they'll be trusting with their hair. I hope this has been useful, and the next time something like this lands in your inbox, that you feel a little bit more equipped and a little less like throwing your phone across the room. If you found this helpful, I would love to hear from you. And if there's something that you feel we haven't covered yet, please reach out. We build these masterclasses around what you actually need.